Welcome to the Ralph Bivens Project. We're here in 2023, and we're waiting for the Federal Reserve to come down with another rate hike or something horrible like that. My opinion, I think we've done enough rate hikes, and we ought to take a break and let's see what the impact is. How much more damage do we need to do to get out of this inflationary period? But I would say let's take a break and see how this impacts everything. Um, but in Houston, things are going good. We're here with a Houston veteran, David Swartz. He's with Transwestern. He's been doing commercial real estate in the Houston area for 53 years. He knows every nook and cranny of this market, and he's been involved in all kinds of transactions, land, buildings, capital market investments, even historic property in downtown, all kinds of different things that they have. And he's been involved in selling or leasing, and now with Transwestern, which is of course a major firm in Texas, and it's been expanding rapidly around the nation too. So, David, the state of affairs. Where are we at right now? What do you think? What's going on? How would you describe the current market?
Well, I would use the word challenging. I mean, over the last few years, Fed policy, cheap interest rates, made it very easy to do deals. I mean, people from all walks of life, from major developers to newbies in the business, were able to get deals done. Today, with the Fed policies, with interest rates increasing, with the supply chain issues creating inflation and construction cost, Ukrainian war, it's getting a little more challenging to do deals. Houston, I think, is in a very good position. We are still the energy capital of the world. Oil prices are maintaining in the $80 range, which I think is a good level for fossil fuels. I mean, we do have some challenges there with the federal government pushing their green initiative, and I don't know how that's going to affect the long-term viability of fossil fuels, but I think in our lifetime, fossil fuels are going to be the number one use of natural gas, and fossil fuels will be the number one generator of energy.
No instant transition. You just can't transition off that.
Well, even electric vehicles, the chargers need to have coal or natural gas to power them. I mean, I don't know how an electric charger is going to work without the fossil fuels behind it.
Yeah, not for.
But that's out of my field of expertise.
That's me too. It just looks like it's going to take a lot longer to adapt than.
But I think with the construction cost today, interest rates, it's very challenging for developers to make the economics work, because I know that the equity investors behind these developers are going to demand larger returns on their capital, which is also challenging, I would think, to the pro formas. However, the last 3 or 4 deals Carlos and I've done have been user deals, and the users can go to the bank and they can borrow, and the 7% or so interest rates is not bothering them.
That's Carlos Pujosa, who's also with Transwestern, and you guys do a lot of deals together.
Correct.
So users are out there. They're the end users, the stores, the manufacturing firms, the people that need office buildings or something, whatever their need is.
Yeah, we've recently sold a tract to a Indian grocer who's moving here from Dallas. It's quite substantial over in the Hillcroft area. We've recently sold a couple of sites to C stores, one in Southwest Houston, one out in the Energy Corridor. The C store operators, I think every time we get a listing, we get a call from about 50 of them.
Wow.
If it's a corner
Are
property,
they chain affiliated? Are they independents?
most of them are independent. Most of them are, Southeast Asian, uh, Middle Eastern, and they own a number of properties.
Mhm.
Uh,
Interesting.
it's an interesting phenomenon to me how you can have 2 or 3 C stores on an intersection and they're all making money apparently. I don't get it, but
Well, if you charge, I don't know what a pack of cigarettes costs now, but it's got to be over $5 or something. It's up there.
correct.
You can sell that, then who cares about how much if they have a pump selling gas, that's not inconsequential compared to what they can get for some of that stuff they're selling. It's amazing.
Oh, no question.
Yeah. You mentioned the energy corridor a second ago. What do you just your overall impression of that market? We've kind of
Well, what's happened,
5 years ago it was rough and the oil was way down, but what do you think about it now?
I think the office guys are having difficulty out there. You are seeing some energy and engineering firms downsizing from the West Belt area, moving out to the energy corridor, but they're taking 30 to 50% less space than they were taking in their old space. I can tell you, as I earlier mentioned, we had a corner track at Cypress Run and Katy Freeway. We had tremendous activity on that. A lot of calls from medical users. We were asking $35 a foot. They couldn't quite come up to that number. We ended up selling it to a C store at a little less than the asking price.
Wow.
We have another site listed kind of in the where University of Houston's located, in the northeast quadrant of the Grand Parkway and I-10. We get numerous calls from multifamily developers still on that property. Unfortunately, that track is restricted against multifamily development. We're also getting a number of calls from industrial users and developers. However, our pricing is at a price point that they cannot afford to make the economics work. And what's basically happening, the development and the energy corridor has gone all the way out to Brookshire. Tesla just did a
1,000,000 feet.
did about 1,000,000 square feet in Stream Energy. What is that? Empire Park, I believe it's called.
Empire West.
Empire West Park. But the pricing on the Katy Freeway has gotten so high that the development is moving out 290. And we just sold a tract out near Prairie View on James Hughes Parkway to an industrial developer that tied up our 51 acres with the adjoining 127 acres that another firm had listed.
For industrial
development. That is just a little west of Beacon Hill, which is Wolf's development, where he sold the northern half to Lakeland for single family residential, and just sold about 75, 78 acres to Hines at a pretty good number, we understand, for future industrial development. Prologus bought a huge tract out there at pretty high number. We've heard $9. Haven't confirmed that, but when you drive 290, there's a lot of major players that have tied up tracks there, but nothing's developed yet.
David Wolf and Hines are that's some strong players.
Yeah,
very strong.
3 to 5 years from now, when everything stabilizes, I think it's going to look like the Grand Parkway on the west side of town. I mean, fully developed. It's my
That's,
guess.
yeah, 290. David Wolf was called, the father of the energy corridor. I guess now he can be the father of Highway 290.
Yeah, I mean, the Beacon Hill deal is a great deal. We actually sold additional 50 plus acres to him at the corner of James Muse and 290 to add to that park a couple of years ago.
He's doing well. I think, what about down south? I think you had some listings maybe down that 288 Kirby Drive, Sam Houston Tollway area, like northern Pearland or something.
That 288, because of its quick access to the medical center, is really growing. There's some major new residential subdivisions going south of Pearland. If you look at Pearland, 518 and 288, nearly every major retailer in the world is down there serving that community. But going back north to the Beltway, they call that Kirby South or Lower Kirby District.
Lower Kirby, yeah.
We recently sold about 38 acres to a Chinese user that's going to put a factory there. Suba just purchased some land to build apartments in that quadrant at the southeast corner of the belt. And 288 Mill Creek recently purchased 30 acres a little east of the Grand of 288 for apartments. We just recently listed a 10-acre tract at Primoris Parkway, which is one of the few tracts out of the 100-year floodplain over there. And we're getting numerous inquiries from multifamily developers and industrial developers. Unfortunately, we're at a price point that the economics don't work for either at the moment.
Hey, what do you hear about Newquest? They've been, they own that land right there, I guess the southeast corner of 288 in Beltway and the
where the Bass Pro Shop is.
Yeah, the Bass Pro Shop. That's
I think at some point there. I haven't talked to them about that development, but it's. I mean, that's a great main location for that area of town, and with all the growth going south, I think you're going to get some good retailers there in the near future. Near meaning 2, 3, 4 years from now.
What's your take on like the Clear Lake area out there?
The Clear Lake area is kind of like Montrose. It kind of comes and goes. There have been some sales out there recently. We just listed a great piece of property on Grove Road, 8.2 acres with about 800 feet of water frontage, kind of just south of 146, which is in the process of being expanded, and across from the Fertitta's Kemah Boardwalk. And we're getting interest from residential condo type developers on that piece of property. No offers yet, but
that sounds like appropriate use right there. That'd be pretty nice. You got some great views. You look out over the bay and you can see forever.
Well, you got the Portofino shipyard or yacht basin, and you got the Seabrook yacht basin across from us. I mean, it's a great location. It will sell.
What about Interloop? The kind of that's there's still things that can be the Heights maybe around in there. What's your take for the Interloop of Houston?
if you can find tracts in the $100 a foot range, there are users and players out there. We had a site at 26th and Shepherd that we sold last year. That property was under contract several times. It fell out once. It was a restaurant operator. There was a little building on it. It was a restaurant operator, and he couldn't make his economics work on construction cost of repurposing the building. Yeah. Went under contract the second time, had some similar issues, and then the third time was a charm. It sold to a major retail developer. We were priced at about $130 a foot on that property. Most of the offers that were coming in that were not acceptable were in the $100 range. We sold a tract on West Alabama and Stanford about a year and a half ago. It was priced at about $140 and ended up trading at about $110. Most of the offers were coming in around $100 from the multifamily developers. I think the problem is the pricing and construction cost are preventing new development in the urban area today.
Yeah,
I think that's going to continue. Interest rates inching up to 6-7%. Historically, 7% was a home mortgage rate, or a little higher. I mean, I remember when I bought my first house, or not my first house, but my big boy house, if you want to call it that, in Memorial, interest rates were 17% in the late 1980s. And I got a deal at 10% owner finance. I felt very fortunate.
10%, a great deal.
and people today, over the last decade or so, we're so used to low interest rates that 7 shocks everybody, but historically that's really the number.
That's pretty good. You got a good point. Historically, that's about where that seems normal, but everybody's used to I get 3% or less even in the last 3 or 4 years, and you're going, wow.
I'm not a residential broker, but the interest rates doubling from 3 to 7%. If you're in the market for a $500,000 house, say, your mortgage rate essentially from January a year ago to today went up nearly $1,000 a month, which puts you back down to probably a house in the 350 range, maybe. I haven't worked those numbers, but I mean, the HAR statistics, I believe, are showing sales down 30%.
That's rough.
And the time on the market is still low. I think it's 2.9 months. When historic break even between buyers and seller markets, I think 6 months.
Yeah, that's normal. But 6 months is normal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of an interesting phenomena. It shouldn't be an issue, but it's going to take a while for people to adjust to the new norm. If 6 and 7% is the new norm.
I know, David, that you've done sales of land in the suburbs that purchased by residential groups for building master plans or subdivisions or something. How's that? And that was land for residential building had been very, very hot just a year ago. How is that? Tell us what the residential land market is like for new communities.
Well, most of the home builders are kind of out of the market right now. I think they're still looking for lots if they can find them, but as far as development, they're really out of the market. However, that said, Johnson Corp just purchased about 1,100 acres out in Waller for a new development. Heinz just purchased about 800 acres on 59 out in the Rosenberg area. And I believe they also purchased about 160 acres in Friendswood. Shea Development has purchased several large tracts up in the Magnolia area. So there are going to be lots coming on the market in 24 and 25 that will probably be scooped up pretty quickly by the home builders at that point in time. The other interesting phenomena right now, in my opinion, is this build to rent.
Oh yeah.
And
huge.
I think there's close to 20 projects out there, and there's home builders like Taylor Morrison and multifamily developers like Camden and Dinnersteins are getting into that market today.
Even Camden, by Rick Campo, he's doing some.
Yeah,
it's amazing thing that builders or other apartment guys building single family for rental. They're not building single family home to people to live there forever, but they're building a single family home to start off being rental, and it stays that way for a while.
I would assume they're easier to finance than apartments are today.
I bet.
I would think apartments, even though we're getting a lot of calls on some of our listings from the apartment developers, I think they have equity partners and they're tying up land for the next cycle when the construction costs stabilize, and interest rates come down, and the rents escalate a little bit so that the economics work.
Yeah. Wanted to talk a little bit about, we've heard about, buildings, office buildings. This, office market is not what it could be, especially for some class of properties. But converting them into residential to apartments. We just had a story in Realty News Report. I hope you guys subscribe to that and check out our site there at realtynewsreport.com.
Oh, we do weekly.
Okay. Well, I know, but hey, we just had our big scoop of the year about the Exxon building, 800 Bell, former Humble Oil and Refining building, 45 stories. Some guys bought that for converting. It's been sitting there vacant for 8 years or something, and it was just closed, and the sale was closed, and they're talking about residential conversion. And a lot of people talking about that.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting phenomena. Sorenstein had, I think, 2 blocks. You had the 800 Bell, and they had the parking about a block or 2 away.
Yeah.
They took a big hit on that sale. I understood it sold for about half of what they originally paid for it, which I think worked out to a little less than $200 a square foot on land, which is a very good price in that little marketplace right there. It's interesting to know, Randall Davis kind of started the conversion with the Rice Hotel a number of years ago. Carlos and I were involved with the sale of the Great Southwest building 5 or 6 years ago, and that was converted to a Cambria hotel.
Oh yeah, that near on Texas Avenue, I guess.
Yeah, 1314 Texas. And okay. I mean, it's kind of interesting to me. These old buildings were probably built better. Their bones are probably better than some of the new buildings, but the infrastructure and the cost of the infrastructure, I don't know how those economics work. I mean, there's rumors that the Marathon Tower, which was also foreclosed on, that new buyer is looking at potential conversion to residential.
You're talking about 5555 San Felipe, which
55 San Felipe. The Old Republic Bank building, which is what TC Energy Tower now.
Yeah.
there's talk that they may convert there.
I'll be darned.
You have the conversion over, what is it, 600 Jefferson? You know, there's and then the Esperson building.
Right.
I mean, Cameron Management's probably doing it in a logical way by converting a small number of units per year and making that a kind of a multi-purpose, repurposed building with office, retail, and multifamily. It's a interesting phenomena, but basically, most of those are irreplaceable locations, and especially the ones downtown are very walkable. And walkability is getting to be a big deal.
Yeah, people like that. They do. Yeah, but I don't know the like the 155 San Felipe. That's
1,000,002 square feet.
It's kind of suburban, not totally, but a little, not like downtown. Doesn't have that downtown density.
That building has very large floor plates compared to the Esperson building. So
Yeah, I bet that's true.
Yeah,
Well, Cameron Dugal, you know, is doing the Esperson there. You guys, if you've seen a picture of downtown, it's just this ornate, the most ornate building in downtown. It's, you know, beautiful building, built in 28, I think.
Oh yeah,
something like that. And so Dugal Cameron is converting that, and he's talking about having maybe saving some of it for like office type use of, especially office, like a co-working type of thing or something, in addition to residences. But he's very serious about it, and he's very we've interviewed him, and we're going to have that presentation on our YouTube here channel. I hope everybody's subscribing to our YouTube channel. Subscribe. You can click on this, subscribe. Have people like David Swartz, and we'll have people like Cameron Dugal, and Kathy Trevino, the new head of the HAR. We just had her as a guest here on this podcast last week. So please subscribe to this, and subscribe to our online website, realtynewsreport.com. And we try to keep you guys up with some of the deals. It's a pretty active market. We can't cover them all, but the big ones you
do a great job, Ralph.
Thanks, David. We do it the best we can. I know, in addition to, I almost forgot to mention this at the intro. I should have mentioned at the intro, but I know you do a lot of work with, you've been president of Rotary, but you also do the famous Lombardi Award, which national award against national news coverage in the sports section, a lot for the college athlete of the year. Tell us a little bit about the Lombardi Award that you've been so instrumental in making happen.
Oh, I appreciate you mentioning that. Rotary Lombardi Award was started in 1970 by a group of Rotarians who got permission from Marie Lombardi to do a trophy in honor of her husband, Coach Vince Lombardi, with the proviso that all the net proceeds go to cancer research. This will be our 50th year of presenting the Outstanding College Lineman of the Year.
Wow.
It's going to be a great event. It's going to be at the Hilton Americas on December 6th. Last year's winner was Wes Anderson from Alabama.
Oh, University of Alabama.
University of Alabama. And if you watch the Georgia game, we had our first sophomore and our first tight end that I can remember being one of the 4 finalists last year, that Brock Bowers.
Wow.
And I mean, he just ate him up in the playoff game.
Wow.
I think he had 157 yards and a couple touchdowns. It's really an outstanding event. It's a great event, uh, really for corporations to bring their clients to. It's much different than the other galas in town because it's all sport. It's sports related.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
college
Good.
football related.
Well, this guy that went, Will Anderson, I guess he's going to be in the NFL sooner or later.
Probably sooner. I mean, the previous year's winner, Aiden Hutchison, which was the last year I chaired the event, was taken number 2 in the draft by the Detroit Lions.
Number 2. Wow. Wow. Man, think of the signing bonus he gets. He's a millionaire for life there. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he needs to refund some of that for our cancer research.
Yeah, that's right. You've probably raised,
we've raised millions of dollars
for that.
For cancer research over the years.
That's a great cause. That's a great cause, David. It's yeah. Sorry to get, but back to the office buildings. We know that summer, the vacancy rate is really high. There's, like you said, there's a lot of companies that, they've moved out to the energy corridor, but they left town when they with 100,000 square feet of office space. They go out to energy corridor and they take 50. They're downsizing, more compact, and this is kind of related to COVID and the work from home thing, remote working. Maybe you only want to come to the office 3 days a week, and companies think that we don't need to have as much space as we used to. But on the other hand, this kind of puts a lot of pressure on the people that own buildings, and that's what I think could be one of the negative impacts. And not the newer buildings, but the buildings built, in 1980 or something, or 85. I think you said we've seen one pretty good sized building under foreclosure lately, and being changed hands due to foreclosure. But is that, talk to me, what do you think about the foreclosure situation?
I've been on a couple national calls recently, and the consensus seems to be that over the next 12 to 24 months, there possibly could be a bloodbath in foreclosures. I think I looked up yesterday the TREP report, which kind of tracks office retail and where they are with loans. They're showing 14 office buildings worth about $342 million on their December delinquency list.
Wow. That's a lot.
Is
that just here in Houston?
Yeah, this is in Houston.
14 office buildings delinquent on their loans.
Yeah, I got that from our research people. The Class B, the Class A buildings are gonna probably weather the storm or trade at a low number. Fuller just bought that building on Bering, I think, for $55 a foot.
On Bering Drive. Yeah.
On Bering Drive, they just bought a big building over there, which is well under replacement cost. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the B and C buildings are going to have to be either torn down or repurposed. I don't think they're all going to end up being multifamily. Some may be converted to self-storage. We have a listing at the corner of Augusta and San Felipe, right near the 55 San Felipe, that every major developer in town wants that locale. That 2 acres is main and main, and pricing's been an issue on that site. The high-rise guys have looked at it, but now they're out of the market. It's too pricey for today for a 101 apartment project. We've actually had some senior housing people from Chicago look at it.
Hmm.
We've also had self-storage people look at it, trying to make the economics work.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good sized piece of land, and
It's 2 acres.
2 acres.
The building's about 100,000 feet. We have it priced. The whisper price is $200 a foot. You know, if you look at comps, the Hawthorne that Bland is developing at the northeast corner of Chimney Rock, he paid $235 a foot for that tract, but it was 1 acre. The Tradition on Woodway at
Their Second Baptist Church.
yeah, across from Second Baptist Church, that's sold for about 2 and a nickel a square foot. So, I mean, 200 is not out of range. There just really haven't been many sales in the area. It's interesting to note the Dinnersteins paid over 300 for the tract where the Aspire is at Post Oak and San Felipe. The rents in there are about 90 cents higher than the general market in that West Loop, Woodway, Westheimer, Voss area. It's inching there. I think they're about 58% leased now.
If you guys don't know that haven't been driven by there, it's Dinnerstein is built a 40-story building, 40-story apartment building, class AA plus luxury, right there, just north of the Galleria, San Felipe and Post Oak, and it's recently opened. I think it opened last year, but it's one of the finer new properties to come on the market lately.
No, there's no question about that, and it will lease up. It's a great location, and then you got the Taj Mahal of condos getting ready to be built by Tanglewood Corporation at the corner of Tanglewood Boulevard in San Felipe. And from what I've seen on that, it has every bell and whistle you can think of.
It's kind of it. That's kind of the southern part of Tanglewood, the where it meets kind of the Galleria uptown area. That it's there's a lot of it there, and of course
It'll make
interviewing Giorgio Borlenghi. They came out there with the Four Oaks towers there a long time ago. They were the pioneers. Giorgio Borlenghi is a pioneer.
Correct.
And he's but and it's kept on coming all these years, decades and decades. It's a good high-rise multifamily area for them. Even on the other side, they've got some other new stuff there.
And you got the senior housing with Tradition. You got the Hallmark getting ready to expand on San Felipe.
It's going on good. All right. Well, David, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us, and we appreciate that. And we always enjoy hearing what you're thinking about and what you're seeing. And so thanks for taking time. And let's talk again soon, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend.